Hopefully you can see me. I'm not sure if this is going to be a long video. I wanted to make a sort of fun video, fun topic. Well, sort of fun. Uh, Hang on a second. All right, so I wanted to make a video on how to turn air, or in other words, how to turn nothing into money. And this is, even to me, this is a controversial topic, not on whether or not it's possible, but on whether or not I would recommend that you do it or that you attempt it. Let's put it this way. If you are in a situation where you have no choice but to beg for money because you have nothing and you're going to starve, that's when I would recommend this technique. But other than that, I don't think there's much reason to. I would try to make money the conventional way, and at the same time, improve those self values, those ethical and moral values, and and improve that image and depiction of the world in your mind when you work towards making more money and producing more success in your life. But as a survival technique, a spiritual survival technique, let's talk about turning thin air into money. Okay, so I do have experience doing this, and so the first time I had observed myself doing this was of significance was in 2023. It was at the end of 2023. I remember it was on Christmas Day, and I was completely broke, living in my truck, and I was starving. And so it was actually the day after Christmas. Uh, but I remember realizing that I was on the verge of manifestation, of being able to manifest, and using various techniques and knowledge, and clearing out what needed to be cleared out in my dynamics, to be able to perform such an energetic task. And so I was able to do that, but it came at a cost because certain energetic pretense and parameters need to be set up in order uh, to turn nothing into something. Is it takes a lot of energy, and so it's kind of like signing a contract with the universe. You have to be able to be willing to go the distance and prove to the universe that you are the one chosen for this task, that you have faith, that um, you have confidence in yourself even when you fail. And so when I talk about processing our own higher dimensional perception and experience in life, I always mention a lot the seventh dynamic, or the seventh dimension. And the seventh dimensional human perception, or experience in that perception, involves taking risks towards opportunity that could very well fall into the into the into the sorry fall into illusion, where an opportunity seems as if it's going to be manifesting, and you are moving to act with intention to correspond with such. But what makes it an opportunity is when it resonates, and when it magnetizes, it draws in, and it can be claimed in the physical world. But and this could go for absolutely anything. It can go for relationships, it can go for objects, it can go for money, it can go for anything. So this thing comes in, but when you're moving to act with intention to correspond with this, it could have a different energetic value to it that deflects it, and all of a sudden the it falls into the I don't even know the word pretense, preface. I sorry, it's like really early in the morning. It's like not even 4 a.m. yet. Anyways, but so you get what I'm talking about. It can fall into that cognitive valence of having been an illusion, and so when when we have illusionary experiences, we can be subject to different or varying degrees of embarrassment, humility, humbleness, so on and so forth. Those different emotions. It's not just excuse me, it's not just anger. It's not just sadness. It's not just like a resentment, but it's almost like a subtle mix of all of them into one trigger, and it can be very dynamic, and so with the seventh dimensional perceptional valence is breaking through that which is opportunity and or excuse me, which what is what breaking through that which is illusion to draw in opportunity or to clarify what is opportunity. Now, now, the reason why we want to differentiate between what is opportunity and illusion because we can have our eye on something, a goal, but if we are not clear in our intention that the quality of that actual manifested goal or person or energy can reflect back with what is not pure, what is really us. And we're not talking about a moral purity here. We're talking a resonant purity where we know that this is so familiar that we can intuitively correspond with it. It does not carry a hesitation. It doesn't carry a desire. It is a perfect fit of the puzzle without any kind of attachments. So we have to learn how to detach, and we have to learn what that is first in ourselves, and that might involve going through a prolonged period of detachment into meditation and backing away from the reactive world as much as we can. It's something I had to do. In fact, it's something that I've been developing most of my life, being sort of synchronistically isolated for long periods of time. And, and so when this happens, when you have a lot of time to yourself, you can reflect and you can come to these conclusions. Anyways, so we know that it involves detachment. So when we're trying to manifest something, we are not trying to we're not trying to pretend. We're trying to resonate with something that we know is already there. We are just expanding to include that thing that is already there. Okay? And so this is where, like, the example of the job I have now, getting into the grocery business. See, I knew that when I was going to follow this path, I had a lot to process because I was going from a career that paid me twice as much down to a career that was more menial labor. It was less construction and creation, and now it's going to be more of people kind of like micromanaging me, telling me what to do, and there was a fear element to the company that I'm hired by, Walmart. I had this fear and this sort of resentment. I didn't want to find out what it was like, what it was actually like in reality to work for Walmart, to be employed by Walmart. So therefore I didn't fill my head with the information. So but at the same time I knew this, and I knew I was processing it, and then that's why Walmart was introduced to me slowly. I started delivering for them, being an independent contractor, not having to be micromanaged by them, and I was able to dip my toe in there and realize, oh, there was a lot of misconception that I had in the years before, and years before like a decade before, I'd had some bad experiences with Walmart, and those were signs to try to get me to it, to judge whether or not in the future I would draw that line of actually trying to correspond with Walmart and the entity that is the company. So I even kind of dated a girl that used to work for Walmart years and years ago, and that was a bad experience. And so I never wanted to know what it was like to work for Walmart, but but I was able to bust through that barrier. That See, when you refine the ego, you don't get rid of the ego, and you don't exalt the ego. You don't fill it with a bunch of desires. You draw the line for the ego, and so because you're going to always have it, so you be able to use it for your advantage. And so that's what clarity, clarity of your life path, clarity of your mind heart coherence, and what you actually resonate with. That's why it's so important to know what is ego desire and what is actually your resonant path, where the majority of your opportunities will be, where you can expand yourself, expand time, expand within time, to be able to clarify those opportunities, resonate with them, and claim them for yourself. This is the substance that money actually has. Paper money is actually an energy, just like any other opportunity. So, and you are abundant in this energy, in technically in this paper money. So you see, you can draw it in as long as you are able to differentiate with your cognitive functions, which includes your nervous system, your somatic nervous system. So, so this is where we get into where I can't recommend this because it involves stress. It involves physical stress. So if you're not physically able to stress yourself out and survive such stress, extreme stress, then probably not the best solution for you. But I was able to do it, and simultaneously I was detoxifying my body, and so I was putting myself through a lot of intentional stress. This is where we start to mingle with the archetypes of the Christ consciousness, and the internal martyrdom that we need to be able to experience, not the exterior martyrdom, not the blaming everybody else on your problems, and dying for your beliefs. And it doesn't necessarily have to go that way. This is an internal archetypal interpretation of martyrdom that we have seated within us from the Christ consciousness that combines all of our dimensional value, all of our lower and higher dimensional substance, and all that information coming in. It clarifies that and helps bring us up, and helps us navigate up and down, if expansively, and metaphorically speaking, laterally. So 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 it involves our nervous system, and the only way that we are going to conquer and smooth out that nervous system to work in our favor, to draw in opportunity, is to make sure that that which is desire and ego, and negativity and fear, all those negative charges, all those those charges that are leaving void for energy to come in, to attach to those. We want to clear those out, because it won't because we want to clear those out, because when we have a positive container to allow energy to settle into, that clarifies opportunities and energy, metaphysically speaking, coming in. So it interprets into the very circumstantial decisions that we will make. I am not willing to settle for this unmoral or unethical opportunity coming in. Like a man, it's very easy as a man for when a beautiful woman comes in, for that window of opportunity, energetically speaking, to open up. But if you are able to clarify what is actually resonant on your path, even the most striking feature of a woman to a man can can be clarified, and all of a sudden the man will see that woman for who she actually is. It does not necessarily say there's anything bad with her, wrong with her. It's just not resonant. It's not meant to happen. And then if that woman were to argue and say, why are you not interested in me? I have all the features and qualities that a man would want. The man could very well, through a resonant way, through getting to know her, pull out those circumstantial features that eventually will interpret into, no, this ain't going to work. Down the line, you're going to differ in beliefs or energy, or however you want to interpret, or you will stab me in the back one day, and then when we are able to clarify those, we can start to measure how we've always understood that. When we really perfect this technique of clarification, to those sorts of circumstances, and resonances, we start to see that, even though we make certain decisions and we act with certain intentions, later on when we learn that lesson, we realize we always knew and we were subconsciously doing it anyways, just so that we can have the lesson. Give me a thumbs up if you resonate with that. So, we're trying to clarify, because we know that the opportunity coming in can be of a seventh dynamic illusionary value, to where it is not sustainable in our resonance field, or in circumstance. We can psychically predict that a ball of money, for example, if you were to find a briefcase on the street, um, that briefcase, and it had money in it, obviously, the old adage, it's not a question of whether or not you should turn it into the police or keep it. It's whether or not you understand psychically and resonantly of whether or not that briefcase holds a charge of negative potential opportunity coming in that could be harmful. Because we're not just talking about positive energy and positive opportunity. We're talking about a dualistic reality where opportunity actually means negative and positive. Oh, and so when it is of an illusionary value, it means that we thought we could correspond with it. We thought that was the right, cognitively speaking, we thought it was the right reality and that it was going to work out. But in actuality, it produced a different path for us. Now, the reason why we call it a dynamic and a dimension is because you're supposed to be able to see this before it happens. That intuition that gets you to make one decision or another, and you're supposed to be left with the question, to be able to analyze it. What if I would have gone another way? But we have to understand that this is where faith comes in. Now we can talk about faith, because when we have faith, the ultimate result is that everything happens for a reason, and everything happens for our benefit. Because in those times of negativity and polarization, we can look back and realize, hey, we survived that and we learned a valuable lesson and we are better for it. And when we can't, it is those clarifications that we need to understand. It is a getting back to Christ. It is getting back to God, because those values in the metaphor, in the archetypal world, help us to gain equilibrium with those natural metaphysical functions we came into this life many, many, many years ago, or many years in the future. We come into this we manifest into this existence as with originally. So we have these metaphysical functions that we interpret into the archetypal world. So the Christ consciousness is one of those things. And the martyrdom of the human experience, and the observation of such, and the analytical processing of such, the clarification of such dealings, is part of that configuration that we have embedded in our DNA, as part of resonant metaphysical correspondence and uh, physical mundane circumstance. So now, so now we're talking about being able to have faith that is of substance and substantially to a degree equal to the opportunity coming in, the energy coming in. So we are this thing, and time can only expand if we expand in it. Time can't go anywhere unless we expand with it. Time is not linear. If we think that way, then the physically manifested world will produce that for us, which is why I've been able to maintain youth and a sense of authenticity without becoming too programmed or influenced uh, by the mundane physical world and circumstance, which is why I'm able to clarify my ego and go through those humiliating experiences, and to be able to clarify how deep my faith runs. And when you really put your ego aside, and you almost you put your ego in metaphorically speaking harm's way, in the way of those things that would damage the ego. And when you are able to process that, and you are able to look at yourself, not in the actual physical mirror, but when you're able to actually mirror yourself without a physical mundane reality mirror, you're able to be a mirror and see yourself. Getting a little worked up. Uh, when you're able to see yourself, that's when you're able to clarify, those things that you've been holding on to. And it always ends up being the opinions of others. Or if you're a person that grew up with friends, or have a lot of friends, or accustomed to friends and family being around all the time, we have bubbles, these metaphysical bubbles, and you can feel them with your nervous system when people are around versus when they aren't around. So when you can bust through that barrier and no longer feel that energetic tension when you are around people and when you are not around, that is mastery. That is that path to resonance. Because then more that is the more opportunity coming in. So when you can be at your lowest and have no money and have no future and have no way of mundanely producing a positive valence to what opportunity might come in, when you are void of all that, and you can still conquer the breach between that with that bubble, the barrier of the have and the have not, when you can conquer that illusion and turn that into an actual opportunity, whether or not you have that physical thing, time expands and that thing comes in. And that's exactly what happened. That the result of that story, that Christmas miracle, was that I was like a day away from my phone being shut down, and I was about to have no phone. And the day after Christmas, my uncle, who, there's nothing wrong with my uncle, but we share this issue that we have talked about, where it's just an outspoken thing where we don't really contact each other. It's just sort of an inner thing that we process as men, where we just sort of leave it as is, and we don't reach out to each other. So it's been years. It was like years or a year or more. He hadn't reached out to me. I hadn't reached out to him. But he just so happened to reach out to me, and and uh, and in a short conversation, I didn't tell him too much, but I was down and out, and I confessed to him that I was down and out, and living in a parking lot, and and that was my Christmas miracle. He sent me some hundreds of dollars, but that's not just it wasn't just a Christmas gift. I was able to also do this in little spurts, uh, as long as I stayed active in creating, as long as I left that window of opportunity that corresponded with the mundane world. You can't just go onto a mountain with no phone and everything and expect money, paper money, opportunity, energy like that to come in. I mean, you're a powerful person if you can produce that, and I'm not saying it's impossible. Everything's possible, but the likelihood of it, when we're talking about high productivity, metaphysical productivity, I wouldn't recommend isolating yourself on a mountain like a guru or something, or a mountain monk. If you're a poor person in an extreme situation in the mundane world, surrounded by lots of people, there are opportunities all the time, and you can expand into those opportunities if you can follow these steps. Now, another step is is professing, and this goes with your faith, this goes with your action and intention. Professing, metaphysically speaking, metaphorically speaking, professing to the universe what you will accept and what you are not willing to accept, because that is what the opportunity will use. That's the avenue that the opportunity will use to come in to your expansion, so that you can claim it. So you have to think of things in terms of what what is actually easy, and what do you interpret as easy, what do you interpret as difficult, what do you interpret as moral and ethical. All these values create structure. So so when we clarify in ourselves the way that we're willing to accept money, for example, begging, if I knew that I did not want to beg for the rest of my life, then maybe it's not a good idea if I start out my metaphysical manifestation of money and using that avenue in begging for money. So, and asking for money. So I made sure that I never at one point ever had to ask for money. I leave the opportunity open. If somebody is able to contribute, feels that the tithing technique is a way that they want to use in clarifying their own energy and using manifestation, because when you give, it is an obvious exchange of energy, and it clarifies in what we are, not just in a moral way, but in an actual chessboard way, in a sort of like a metaphysical "I got you" universe sort of way. I understand you. So when we give money, so when you have that ability to do so, and you synchronistically, without attaching yourself energetically, you all of a sudden realize the universe says, "Hey, give this man a $5 bill." Oh, okay. Which is something I've done before, but I don't say I'm a giving person and I give to the poor, because that's an avenue that I'm attaching to, where all of a sudden I'll find myself in a different situation because I've allowed that to be the one avenue I use energetically. So you don't want to abuse tithing, you don't want to abuse giving, and you don't want to abuse it in the opposite way of begging. Um, Instead, you want to do it at the right time, and that is where you want to develop a clear minded and clear hearted intuition. So that way the universe can simply be like, "Hey, this is the man that you give $5 to." Oh, okay. Give the man $5. It was all an intuition. I don't have to have any attached to it. I don't have to think, that I'm doing something special. I just know I was able to do something at the right time, and it worked out perfectly, because you can resonate more on the story that the $5 bill had an actual energy attachment to it that you are clarifying. Energy comes to us in negative ways, and that is also another way we accept avenues of energy coming in. Do we accept them, like I was saying about that, the features in a person? This is where societies come up with morality and ethics and religions, uh, because energetically speaking, we can make the wrong decision if it's not resonant with our path. Leave me a comment down below if you have an experience uh, that is coming to the forefront of your mind, where it makes perfect sense with what I'm talking about. I have to keep going. Um, and leave me a thumbs up. And by the way, if you do have the opportunity uh, to tithe and to donate, and you want to use that one time or consistent opportunity, if you feel this is something you resonate with, you can look for that information to donate to this channel in the in the description of this channel, but moving on, let's see if, so I don't miss anything. So we've covered the energetic avenues and accepting. I think you get a good grip on how we are co-creating reality when we accept certain ways of receiving money. So we always have to make sure that we're not trying to manipulate people and manipulate the universe. Instead we're co-creating at the right time in the right place. We are always of value to the universe. And so when we feel like this is the shortcut that the gurus and philosophers use. They just sort of shortcut this, where they say, if you feel this way, then your world will be this way. The way you feel is the way your reality produces itself, and it's true in many ways. But you'd have to pay them to get the actual details and the results. And physical manifestation is a lot more about sacrifice than it is about. Um, it is more about what you're willing to give up and what you're willing to sacrifice, and what you are willing to go to the ends of the earth for. Because cognitively speaking, the universe and God also has a plan for you. It is not just what you want. See, if you were to think it didn't have any cognitive ascensional value to it, then that would loop you back into the valence of desire and ego. So you have to understand that this is a long-term commitment. This is a contract. And that starts to open up the opportunity for energetic contracts to reveal themselves in their actuality to you. Things that are not in the physical, mundane world. Uh, People that are actually energies, like I mentioned, angel. Like I've mentioned, I have mentioned the physical manifestation of people that don't exist, imaginary friends. You know, these are archetypes, but they're actually multifaceted energies that are synchronizing in your many dimensional valences, to manifest for you a reflection of correspondence that you can use to uh, to manifest a clear vision on resonant information. I say it this way so that I don't just tell you, oh, you can just create whatever you want. Because if I was to tell you just create whatever you want, then we're dancing on that edge of ego, desire, and downfall. And this is where tarot starts to come in, where we start to realize that life ends up being a repetitive cycle, because the more we get what we want, the more we see results, the more we start getting sucked into those looped valences that produce change all over again. That is what the world is doing. That is what the world experiences. So the world experiences its own life in a yuga, in a cycle. And so by the time it wakes up and realizes this collectively, we as a collective have realized it, and we are expressing it as the earth, as the cilia of the earth, and the expression and co-creation of that is tied directly between the earth and what we would archetypally call the heavens. This is what I'm talking about. You bring this into reality in the here and the now, which is why it's so important that we come together despite our differences, and to understand that martyrdom in us, and start yelling at the opposition, and calling them out just because I can do that, or accepting payment for belief systems that create division, accepting your reality as a person who creates division. This is why it's so important to cognitively wake up from it now and say, I'm no longer going to be a puppet. But at the same time, that sacrifice sees you understanding that you have been a puppet up to this point for a reason, so that you can see that, wow, not in a, oh my gosh, I need to give up my life because I'm worthless, but I have value to understand up to these extremes that I've experienced. So when we void ourself and we clarify ourselves, and we are willing to sign that contract with the universe, and we know that the action and intention is that of the expansion into our resonant field and not beyond that into the world of mundane desire. That is when we know we are safe to travel. That is when we know we can use this technique. That is when we know when a stress builds up, whether it's in a conversation or even if like you're driving along. I love using this. Example because it's true every time it happens. And so start thinking this way. When you feel any kind of stress, and like when you're driving down the road and you're trying to hold it, it's like, God, I gotta stop at the gas station and use the bathroom. Think of it as an open opportunity in a dualistic world of negatives and positives. And keep in mind the resonance that you're feeling and what you're experiencing. When you have to go and you decide, okay, it's time to do it. This is the time to go to the bathroom. In the time it takes for you to do, I'm not talking about the actual act of going to the bathroom. I'm talking about the stress that you feel in that common act of needing to really go to the bathroom. When your bladder tells you you got to go, that is also a synchronicity in a dualistic reality, where it's like, okay, somewhere in another life, this stress point came up or is coming up, because it's all one. It doesn't matter if it's this life or another life, past life. It's all one moment. So somewhere in this resonant field of mine, this came up. I really had to go. I had no choice. And along that path, opportunity was there, and it just took for me to expand into it, to change it into a value that I can claim. Now, that can be a great situation with a person, an interaction with a person. It could be saving somebody's life. It could be humbling yourself and experiencing a negativity that that you realize, okay, I experienced that in another life, in another vibration, and I'm clearing that up right now. I am being proactive right now. And it can also mean finding $5 on the ground. It can mean finding $100 in the bathroom or something. Let me know if that's ever happened to you. Or like the time I found $100 bill on the edge of the driveway here, and I knew by walking out and synchronizing, because there was another person coming out. There was another person about to see it and grab it, but I saw it first. And so I walked out there, and I realized in that moment, this is probably a fake $100 bill. But if it's real, I've opened myself up to that opportunity. So I picked it up, I grabbed it, I walked back, I looked, and I knew it was fake, but I still had to prove it because it was a good looking fake. I couldn't really tell, but I knew, okay, so the chances of this being real are slim, and I have to process it, and I might have to use the mundane world to process it. So I took it to the gas station. I had them run it through their little machine, and it turned out to be fake, and and it was embarrassing because there was a line forming behind me. It looked like I was trying to use a fake bill. The person who left it at the edge of my driveway could have done that intentionally because they knew it was a fake. So all this seventh dimensional, all this embarrassment, humility, these emotions are titled as such so that we can metaphysically uh, put make sense of them. You know, to put them in the proper constructed puzzle to create an image for our own internal clarification. This is the most important thing about manifesting physical things in the physical world, is that you have to be clear, you have to be clarified, you know. So when you are clarified, then you can psychically and intuitively make those decisions because you have already resonated with them. See, you don't actually have to you don't actually have to experience them in real time in life, in a linear fashion, in order to resonate with actual truth that is clarified from within inside. It takes many years of practice to be able to do this. It takes a lot of humiliation. And so in your lifetime, you will experience many, many archetypes of this clarification and humility and dualism and polarization. And so that which you are willing to give into and sign that contract and accept is what that Christ consciousness will sign you to and help you through, and will help manifest, will physically charge the physical world, your physical valence, whether that's hearing, sight, smell, doesn't matter. All that will be enhanced, and in this many moments of moments, that magnetism will come in synchronicity. Don't miss it, because it could be it could be a penny on the floor, and it could be whether or not that penny is heads up, tails down. It can be the archetype you're trying to hone in on. It doesn't matter. It's your resonance field. Nobody can have the opinion or projection on the reality you're supposed to experience. Well, I let me know if you want me to articulate more and go in on more. If there's any questions, that would definitely help drive this topic of turning thin air into money. But I think you get the point. That is like setting yourself up an energetic contract. You can almost write out every step that you would need to embody, and then so your interpretation of your own resonance and what you have experienced in your many lives in the moments of moments, that is what's going to dictate what is highlighted in opportunity, in the right way to accept something. Don't forget, once you have signed that deal and you told the universe you are willing to accept your life this way, then emotionally speaking, and then that is also a polarity. Whether if you're negatively charged to that, you're trying to get away from it. If you aren't clarifying it here, you're telling the universe that's what you want and that's how you want it. So when it works out for you and you have manifested money out of thin air, you have to ask yourself, is that worth it every single time to me? Is it worth the karma? Is it worth the action and intention that will vibrate with me? Do I want to clarify it right now, and realize that I am actually more powerful than that? I want to I want to slingshot my energy back so much. The result is an equivalent to how much I have, to the steps I have been willing to go, and the lengths I have been willing to go for the universe, and for that internal, that Christ martyrdom. As obviously, if you missed it in the beginning of the video, martyrdom is a metaphysical metaphor archetype for an internal process. So I think you get that now. So happy processing. My name's Ryan. This has been The Watcher's Alchemy. I hope you got something out of this. Let me know. Ask questions down in the comment section. Leave me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribing. Share this video if you really feel it's making sense and it can clarify a lot of things for humanity itself. That's exactly why I do this, and I don't do this for any other reason. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.